Joanen. I live on the Bogaflyer River headwaters up in Folsom, Louisiana, right off of Highway 40. And it came to my attention from landowners that I help manage their properties up and down the Little Tchefuncte and the Little Bogaflyer that federal money coupled with parish money was being used for de-snagging operations. And I was not worried at first because I thought certainly they're going to stay within the confines of what the regulations and the expert conservationists at the state and federal level would recommend. But apparently the parish, in an earnest effort to improve drainage for the parish, felt it was an emergency situation and they had an exception. Well, where they want to apply some of these activities to de-snag, remove tree debris from river bottoms, is in areas where we don't have historical issues with flooding. If there is flooding, it's because the river's gone from being very tiny, 20 feet, 30 feet wide, that expands out to 2,000, 2,500 feet wide through braided systems, through bottomlands at the headwaters. For example, in the Bogaflyer from the Washington Parish line all the way down to Million Dollar Road. After Million Dollar Road, and as you work your way down, it becomes less and less important, less impactful, and more beneficial for specific areas to be de-snagged. I understand it. But as you work your way back up the river to river bottoms like this, which don't even reach the top of their normal bank unless there's a couple of inches of rain, does not improve drainage for anybody downriver. As a matter of fact, if we were to allow equipment to come here on this river right now and traipse up and down to remove a few cubic yards and travel miles doing it over and over again, year after any storm where funding is given, we're going to create a flat environment where there'll be no diversity, no fish, no feeder fish for downriver. There's a lot of, this is a nursery ground. All these braided rivers and streams support other wildlife and help improve the water quality downriver. The debris that occurs up here has no consequence to localized flooding for those that live along the river. Most people don't live on the river in these sections. They live a half a mile away like I do, because the elevation drops from 135, 150 feet at one height down to 98 feet or down to 75 feet. As you work your way downriver, that dynamic becomes more cavernous, like you may see at the Abbey. Is a perfect example along River Road, where we have more of a cavernous scenario, and cut banks and any disruption to the river bottom can affect erosion very quickly. So my concern has always been, there's been no environmental impact studies on any of these rivers that are current. There's been no assessment of after the post-mortem, after these de-snagging efforts took place, whether it was on the Tchefuncte River or upland rivers. If there are, I haven't found them. I'd like to see them. But we've seen the damage. Over the summer, we had one of the most intense droughts in the past 50 years. I think since 1968, we hadn't seen this little rainfall. And we're still in a drought. And it's October 19th now. And the drought, in my opinion, started late May, early June. So, based on that, they went into the Little Bogaflyer River system, the Little Tchefuncte River system, and others, and got access at least at one point. Some neighbors didn't want them to have access, but they let at least one landowner in. And the idea was that even though these are not water bottoms of the state, property owners own to the middle of these rivers. The water could be considered property of the state, but if they're not floating, like you hear, they wouldn't float. They would track through this, tear up cypress knees, tear up the fishing, that couple of feet, 2, 3 feet, sometimes 12 feet, these deep holes harbor so much life. And when they come through with equipment like that during drought periods in the groundwater low flow regime, all it does is tear up the last vestige of life in these river systems. So what we're left with is we're waiting for the next rainfall to come, Because when that next rainfall comes, we're going to see the net effect of what this really did. I think it's going to increase volumetric flow. You're going to see more erosion in those sections, particularly downstream from those sections, and there's going to be a sediment load like we haven't seen in years. So the idea that we're unplugging a drain to help with flooding with neighborhoods, this is not that. It is appropriate, I believe, once you get general rule of thumb below 25-foot elevation in the parish, I believe it has its place. So I'm not saying get away with, do away with, I should say, with the de-snagging effort. I'm saying let's do it smarter. Let's assess what we've done so far, pump the brakes a little bit, use that money where it's really needed, and not try to fix a problem where it doesn't exist in the upper portions that support life, where property owners have started conservation easements and sanctuaries. We've got it covered up here for the most part. There may be exceptions to that. But the idea that this needs to be your swimming pool and that you walk across it ankle deep and it's fun, that's great. And I think that everybody should have access to locations like that, but not all of the river system. So we make a joke sometimes amongst my friends that, no one's going to be satisfied until they can ride a Sea-Doo or a jet ski from Folsom to Covington. And I just think that would be horrific, because that would mean we don't have any life in the river, and it's been straightened and it's been flattened, and it's just a recreational ditch. And that's not what this is. This should not be our default or our catch net or our backstop to bad planning for drainage. We need to do more localized drainage. We need to do everything we can in those lower elevations where we don't have much fall to make sure those are engineered properly. But doing this de-snagging project up here, especially where the National Resource Conservation Service has said they don't necessarily agree with this section, or the Wildlife and Fisheries doesn't agree with this section, it would be disruptive here on many levels. I own to the middle of the river right here, for example. I have bird rookeries back here, inclusive of great blue herons. There are gopher turtles here. There's threatened species. There's just regular species. These serve as a wildlife corridor. And I think it would be extremely disruptive during the summer months when these animals are striving to get fattened up for the winter to do that, especially during a drought season like we just had. So I hope this helps you understand. We've got a lot more information. We've got studies underway where we're going to present factual information about the benefit of where de-snagging is great and where it's not appropriate, and what we can do in everybody's own property to help with drainage and flooding issues at if we start at a micro level and work our way out, I think that may be the best way. There's no one solution for the whole parish. Every section is a little different, and everybody's got different intentions. And I don't think everybody's going to be happy about this. I think everybody could probably agree, though, that we don't want to spend money where it's not needed, right? So let's focus on where the need is that fits that funding and where it fits that program. And I think that we've kind of gotten that program out of alignment in its application at the parish level, particularly this past year. From what I understand, in years prior, I wasn't aware of it, but that's where we are right now. So more to come. Thank you for listening. Save the rivers, right? Thanks. How's that?
Good.
That's a view of the river from this perspective, right here. And there's a recent tree that was downed about 5 years ago, with other trees behind it, as you can see here. This other tree that's about to go behind it, way over here. And this is a flat area that goes down into a deep area, creating diversity for fish. See the deep area right here? Creating diversity for fish and turtles and everything, because all of what you see flowing right there is groundwater, not rainwater flow.